Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, for 1 year as we read through St. Faustina's diary. Join me, Amy Thomas, each day for a short reading out of the diary which brought us a deeper understanding of Christ's divine mercy. Hello, Catholic pilgrims, and welcome to day 192 of our readings from St. Faustina's diary. Today, Sister Faustina is going to be talking about obedience. And this is something, again, that has to be more nuanced than just, I'm not obedient to anybody. Because, quite honestly, obedience to God is not a request. It's something that we are compelled to do and we should do. It is right and just to be obedient to God. So that's what we're going to be talking about today in Notebook 2, numbers 893 through 896. January 22nd, 1937. Today is Friday. My soul is in a sea of suffering. Sinners have taken everything away from me. But that is all right. I have given everything away for their sake, that they might know that you are good and infinitely merciful. I shall be faithful to you, come rain or shine. Today the doctor decided that I am not to go to Mass, but only to Holy Communion. I wanted very much to assist at Mass, but my confessor, in agreement with the doctor, told me to obey. It is God's will, sister, that you should get well, and you must not undertake mortifications of any kind. Be obedient, sister, and God will reward you for it. I felt that the confessor's words were Jesus' words, and although it made me sad to miss Holy Mass, during which God has been granting me the grace of seeing the infant Jesus, nevertheless, I placed obedience above everything else. I became absorbed in prayer and said my penance. Then I suddenly saw the Lord, who said to me, "My daughter, know that you give me greater glory by a single act of obedience than by long prayers and mortifications. Oh, how good it is to live under obedience, to live conscious of the fact that everything I do is pleasing to God." January 23rd, 1937. I did not feel like writing today. Then I heard a voice in my soul. "My daughter, you do not live for yourself, but for souls. Write for their benefit. You know that my will as to your writing has been confirmed many times by your confessors. You know what is pleasing to me, and if you have any doubts about what I am saying, you also know whom you are to ask. I grant him light to pronounce judgment on my case. My eye watches over him. My daughter, you are to be like a child towards him, full of simplicity and candor. Put his judgment above all my demands. He will guide you according to my will. If he doesn't allow you to carry out my demands, be at peace. I will not judge you, but the matter will remain between me and him. You are to be obedient." January 25th, 1937. Today my soul is steeped in bitterness. Oh Jesus, oh my Jesus, today everyone can add to my cup of bitterness. It makes no difference whether they be friend or foe. They can all inflict suffering on me. And you, O Jesus, are bound to give me strength and power in these difficult moments. O blessed host, support me and seal my lips against all murmuring and complaint. When I am silent, I know I shall be victorious. There is almost a snobbish pride running through our cultures today that I am not obedient to anybody. I'm not going to be obedient to the church. I'm not going to be obedient to governments. I'm not going to be obedient to teachers. I'm not going to be obedient to my parents. Nobody. There's this very, almost arrogant pride when talking about obedience. And it's so interesting. My daughter and I are reading right now about the French Revolution and the things that kind of kicked that off. And one of those was the introduction of liberalism like as a theory and ideology into the culture. This was the time of the Enlightenment where man started to think, oh, I don't need the church anymore. We have come to the age of enlightenment and reason. We don't need the church to tell us anything. We can know through our own mind because man is just so enlightened what we need to follow. And so this theory of liberalism started to inject itself into the culture, especially into the French culture, and the idea is that all authority is bad. All authority is bad. And the only thing that matters is whatever you want to believe in, and that's what you should go with. Ironically, however, the people of this movement believed that their authority was the best and consequently set themselves up as basically dictators, and chaos ensued, and we had the French Revolution, which was just a big bloody mess that ended with nothing positive happening at all. But there was this idea that obedience to anything other than your own will was to be rejected, and especially the Catholic Church. And we see it today too, right? This thought process has not gone away. Obedience to a church. Oh my goodness, you're just a brainwashed slave. But there really and truly is only one person we always have to be obedient to, and that is God. As long as a government is being just and right, we should be obedient to it. As long as they are putting down just laws, then yes, it's fine. As long as they're following, God's natural laws and things like that, it's good to be obedient to a government. And yes, you should be obedient to your parents as long as they're not asking you to sin or to do anything that is wrong. You should be obedient to teachers, to police officers, people in authority, as long as they're not asking you to sin or to hurt people or to do anything that is contrary to God's laws. It's okay to question man-made organizations such as governments and educational institutions and things like that. We don't have to just blindly be obedient to them. We should to a point, and then if things are going awry, then we have to stop and question and say, no, I'm not going to be obedient to you anymore because you are trying to make me go against my faith. But with God, it's always different. It's always different. No matter what, we have to be obedient to God. And that's what he desires more than anything else, is obedience. And we don't like this word because we see it as, being, kind of utterly dependent on somebody, and we don't have our own mind and those kinds of things. But God is all good, and so he wants exactly what is best for us. He's not going to ask us to do something that would not be good for us. Whereas man, as the human race, can ask us to do things that would not be good for us. So whenever we're obedient to God, it may not be comfortable as far as like trying to live in the world, but it will always be good for our souls. And so Sister Faustina today, she's writing about this. The doctor has come in and said, you can't go to Mass. You're just too sick. God wants you to get well. So I need you to stay put. And so she realizes I need to be obedient to this. And she even says, I placed obedience above everything else. And so she's going to follow the doctor's orders, and her confessor is also telling her this. And then Christ says to her, my daughter, know that you give me greater glory by a single act of obedience than by long prayers and mortifications. So instead of doing things, denying ourselves things and doing mortifications of different types, God would just rather us be obedient to him, just to follow his teachings and his laws and live by his truth. And in our culture today, people like to pick and choose parts of Christianity and the teachings of Christ that they want to follow. They want to be obedient, maybe just a little, but not all the way. And then they decide to be obedient to the culture and what the culture is saying instead of to Christ. And then we make up excuses of, oh, well, today Christ would actually say that X, Y, and Z is okay. He didn't back then, but today he would say it is. Well, by what authority do you have to say that at all? Zero. And so we have to be obedient, even when it's hard, even when it makes us lose friends, even when it gets us called names, even when it seems like the whole world is against us, we still have to be obedient to God, because here's the reality. When you die, you will not stand before any man and have him judge you. It's not like the president that you lived under when you were on earth is going to come and say, you weren't obedient to me. But you will stand before God, and you're going to have to explain why you were obedient to the culture as opposed to being obedient to God. And so we're going to have to really look at ourselves and ask ourselves, do I follow the ways of the world more? Am I more obedient to that because it's easy and because it's comfortable and I don't get any flack for it? Or am I obedient to Christ and his church? Even though everybody around me tells me that they're backwards and, behind the times and bigots and all this, because of course the culture would say that about the Catholic Church. But am I obedient to the church? Do I follow all her teachings, even though I don't sometimes fully understand them, and even if sometimes they make me uncomfortable? And the reason it makes you uncomfortable is because the world is over here saying, no, be obedient to me. I know a better way. And so we can't do that. And we really have to check ourselves, and we really have to be honest with ourselves and recognize where our obedience actually lies. So that is all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. I will see you back here for day 193. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.